Now we're going to talk about what lies for us next. So what is UiPath's roadmap to the future? And that includes, obviously, all the paths to artificial intelligence. So let me welcome on the stage Andy, or Andrew Rayner. Andy's VP Customer Success for UiPath, and he's going to run us through the roadmap. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I believe I'm the last presentation before the drinks, so I'll try not to be too long, or siestas, whatever you guys do at this time of day. Sorry, you said no jokes, but I had to. So, as I said, my name is Andrew Rayner, so I'm the VP of Customer Success for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Part of the Customer Success organization's job is to educate our customers about the product roadmap. So I'm here today to give you a glimpse into what we're working on internally at UiPath and what you should be expecting from the future. So I'm going to start with this quote from Professor Sven of economics at the Carnegie Mellon University. So the major problem with aging demographics is the labor factor can no longer be a factor of growth. So what we're trying to do at UiPath is to build an enterprise RPA platform to help you manage the digital workforce and assist staff in your organizations to raise productivity. And as you all know, the ones who are using UiPath today, which I hope is most of you, we have 3 different products as part of UiPath. We have UiPath Studio, allowing developers to build automations. This is based on Microsoft technology and allows very simple, quick, and easy development of automated processes. We have UiPath Orchestrator, which is our control center, it's our control room that allow humans to log in and manage that virtual workforce. And then we have the UiPath Robot that sits on a virtual machine and runs unattended automation, or it sits on a user's desktop and runs attended automation, so it's there to help and enable users do their day-to-day activities. So, coming from customer success as well, what are your expectations, or what are some of our customer expectations of UiPath and automation? So they want to digitize without disruption. I mean, you could argue that digitizing is disrupting in a good way. They want to significantly boost their productivity and the capability, so they want to introduce new services, they want to add value to their customers, and they can do that through automation. They want to scale workers to meet demand, so there may be a higher amount of transactions coming through, they're winning more business, they may have peaks and troughs in their business, so they want to scale. They want a platform that allows them to scale to meet those new demands coming into their business. They want to continuously learn through the experience. Daniel's mission to us at UiPath is always try fast, fail fast, innovate constantly, and I think that's why we're doing so well in this market. Increase customer satisfaction. So, of course, through freeing people up to do better value-added jobs, you can have those people working with customers, doing analytics, talking to customers, and improving the overall customer satisfaction that you're giving to your end users. And then finally, higher job satisfaction. Freeing up people to stop doing mundane tasks, copying data from one system to another, downloading reports. This stuff should be done by robots. So a show of hands, is this your expectations? Yeah, is this your customer expectations in the room? Yeah? Yeah? No one showed their hand, but people were saying yes, so that's good for me. Okay, so at UiPath, what are our key priorities when it comes to the roadmap? The first one is to have an enterprise-grade solution that can deal with scale, that allows people to control, monitor, and manage automation, but also meets your existing security and risk controls that you have within the organization. So we're working with financial services, we're working with banks, we're working with insurance companies, we're working with NASA, as was said earlier. So we need to make sure that we are taking seriously security and that we're protecting you and your data. The path to AI, so AI is being used a lot today. So for us, AI is computer vision, so the robot's ability to see things on the screen, but also how do we convert semi-structured data to something that's structured. Machine learning, using machine learning to classify, using machine learning to extract, and using machine learning to give the next best action to a robot. NLP, so understanding the intent of what someone's trying to say. And this all comes together, and of course, enabling chatbots, so virtual assistants within your organization to improve employee or customer self-service. So we're looking at these cognitive technologies as part of our path to AI, from making a robot less machine and more human-like. Ease of use, so continuing to add features into our platform that make our tool easier to use. And faster implementations, of course, improving your return on investment in automation and RPA. And then finally, and probably one of the most important, is our ecosystem. So innovating together with our technology partners, with our customers, with our service partners. So we can't do this on our own. We're working with the likes of Google and Microsoft because these guys have invested, billions, millions, and billions of pounds in artificial intelligence. So why try and compete? Why not have an open platform that can be extended and integrated? So the first topic was around, so we're going to drill into each of these priorities in a little bit more detail. The first one was around building an enterprise platform. So you can see here, the first stage is compliance. So at the moment, UiPath have security certifications for working with some of the customers that we do within Europe and America. For example, Veracode. So UiPath is Veracode certified, and we'll continue to certify all the code that's released from our product and engineering teams. We currently have Vault integrations, so we're going to add more Vault integrations, and we're going to do more with the likes of CyberArk. So today you can use CyberArk for storing credentials that the robot can use to log into your systems. We're going to continue to develop CyberArk, but also add additional Vault integrations on there that you may use in your organization. Improvements to authentication and encryption, so supporting the latest version of things like SAML 2.0, being able to encrypt work queues within the application in case you need to store sensitive data within UiPath work queues. Protecting your processes, so making sure that they can't be modified in production and that people can't go in and add something malicious into the processes once they've gone into production. Building a platform as a service. So one of the things that UiPath are working on at the moment is building an RPA as a service, so a hosted solution that customers can use, can buy robots, can use that managed service, which is supported, which is hosted, and of course we're looking to have usage-based licensing through there too. Flexible licensing services, so that comes again to usage-based licensing. So how can people buy things like consumable robot hours, so you can pay for robots as you need them rather than having to pay for them for a large number of robots for a period of time. Localization support, so we're working in probably every country in the world, so we already have localization for things like Japanese and French, also starting to expand for things like Spanish, German, Russian, some of the other languages out there. Portuguese, of course. Yep, that's priority one on our roadmap. And then human in the loop. So how do we manage that handoff between people and robots? So how do humans interact now that robots are doing all of the work? Analytics, monitoring, and reporting. So there's vast improvements going into the product around how we monitor processes in production, real-time monitoring. Also, exception handling, so having global exception handlers to make sure that we can catch everything in a controlled manner. And then reporting, so we currently support Kibana and Elasticsearch out of the box. Lots of our customers are using tools such as Tableau, Power BI, Spotfire, and we're looking at how we can help you build a data pipeline from how we store the data into an existing data warehouse that you have, our analytics tool, so we can start to support some of these other interfaces. And then finally, around large scale, things like auto scaling of robots. So can we utilize the power of things like AWS and Google Cloud and Azure to spawn robots on demand? So if you've got a high number of transactions, we can Orchestrator can create the robots for you and scale your robotic workforce to meet that demand in transactions. So where are we today with scale? So currently, this is an old version of the slide. Currently, we have 23,000 robots currently running in our community edition. That's running on a mixture of Azure and AWS services. And through our customers and partners today, we have 24,500 licensed production robots out there in the market, which is a huge step forward for us. We talked a little bit about human-to-robot orchestration, and we see this in different layers. So the first one is around task assistance. So most people here are using unattended robots. The robot will need to receive some work. So how is that done? It may be that a human sends it a spreadsheet by email, so the robot downloads it as an attachment and then goes and does the work using work queues. It may be that we drop a file into a folder and the robot's monitoring that folder. So we've created in the 2018.3 version a way of having interfaces that can be presented to users to gather input for robots. But also we're seeing lots of organizations now building their own interfaces to be able to send data to the robots via RESTful interfaces. Which then brings us on to talk about hybrid RPA. So this is where we have clients who are using a mixture of attended and unattended robots that are working together. So an example might be an unattended robot is doing some work, it has to raise an exception, and then a person has an attended robot running on their machine. So it can raise an event to that person to say, can you fix something? They can fix it, and then it goes back to the unattended robot. So having attended and unattended robots working in the same fashion. Or it could be a customer contact center where an attended robot is helping a person do some work, it's monitoring what they're doing, and then it's passing it to a back office robot to go and do the work that a person would need to do between calls. And then we come on to task and case management. So we're seeing now lots of organizations who are integrating UiPath into existing BPM solutions. So if they're using like IBM's BPM, they're using K2, eNate, Dynamic CRM, that they're using that as a way of sending work to robots. So we have an end-to-end process, and the human is doing certain parts of that process in the workflow, but then we get to a point that the robot can do something, so the robot is a user as part of that workflow. And we're seeing lots of organizations now who are using their existing CRM systems or their existing workflow systems and integrating UiPath, which brings us on to digital process automation, which means that UiPath sits as part of that end-to-end process workflow automation. So platform as a service, we mentioned already that we're building a managed service in UiPath. We will have a hosted solution that customers can come to, and they can buy a UiPath service. So it's going to have certain charging models that will be on usage-based and per user-based licensing. You'll be able to also do online payments if that's the type of organization you are. So you can see that some of our small to medium-sized businesses who don't want to go through the whole infrastructure setup could also sign up to this RPA as a service solution that we're offering. It will be multi-tenant. We will also deal with things like disaster recovery. It'll be supported by UiPath, so UiPath will have the right accreditations when it comes to things like ISO 27001 and some of the federal certifications that we have for hosting and running services for clients in the US. It'll be continuously monitored by our teams because we already have 24/7 support in UiPath. So we have the ability to follow the sun. We're currently supporting the products in such a way we can now support this managed service in the same way. So the monitoring that we have in the tool today, most people are using tools like Kibana or Tableau. We're going to continue to improve the monitoring capability of Orchestrator by adding new dashboards that show things like utilization, show things like process health, a better way of alerting to see how many exceptions, see how many times robots are failing over a period of time. So a better way of you monitoring that robotic workforce within the Orchestrator tool, because that can be real time because it's looking at the live database. But as I mentioned as well, we can now also help you build a data pipeline into additional analytics and reporting services like Tableau, Power BI, or any other tools that you're using out there today. So our path to AI, we mentioned already that computer vision is the first stage. So computer vision, the robot's ability to see things on the screen. And what we're releasing later on this year is two things that allow us to work with Citrix better. First one is an ICA driver. So we're looking in the 18.4 release to release it's already in beta and some customers are testing this. But we'll have an ICA driver, which means you can install a component on the Zen app, which can communicate back with the robot and UiPath Studio, which means that automating over Citrix will become a lot easier because the robot will be able to detect the Citrix application in the same way as it can detect a FIT client application, like a website or a desktop application. We're also investing in machine learning to help the robot understand the characteristics of the controls on the screen, to be able to see, if I said to Denise, if I said to you, can you go and close this window? Denise would know that this window has a close button and she would go and click it. We want developers to be able to instruct the robots in the same way that you can instruct a human. And we're also investing quite a lot in OCR and embedding enterprise OCR technologies into our tool. So the likes of Abby, Google, Microsoft are all available today in our tool, and we'll continue to invest in OCR, but also intelligent OCR, which is where we start to use templating and machine learning to improve the extraction of semi-structured and unstructured documents. Machine learning, so we can classify, so lots of customers are using machine learning today to classify documents, but also extract and give robots the next best action when it comes to machine learning. And customers have built their own machine learning models on things like Caffe2 or TensorFlow that was mentioned by Google earlier. So we want to have a solution in which you can embed those machine learning models that you've created and get the robot to execute against them at runtime. And we have ready-to-use machine learning services. So, for example, today we're integrating with IBM's text analytics services, Google's text analytics services, Stanford NLP, and we'll continue to look at cloud-based NLP technologies and machine learning technologies that we can continue to integrate with. Or because it's UiPath, you could build your own and integrate them yourself if you want to, because it's an open platform. Reasoning, then, so working with the likes of Celonis and Mineit to help to mine process data inside or log data with inside ERP systems to see where there is groups of activity. And then using that groups of activity, you can identify where the transactions are going, where there's low variation, and of course where it's taking a long time for humans to do it, which would be a great place to start looking for where you can automate processes. And then language, so we already have a number of chatbot solutions that are integrated in. We're talking about UiPath Go soon. There's a company called Druid who've integrated their chatbot into the UiPath solution. We also have integration with Dialogflow, as was presented by Google. We also have integration with tools like Humly, so digital assistants, chatbot providers that allow the dialogue to happen with the person, and then the data, once it becomes structured, to be sent to a UiPath robot to go ahead and automate, to go ahead and do the automation within your systems. So OCR, if you look at the bottom left, you can see the standard OCR is only really good if there's a low variety, i.e., the document's coming in and actually it's the same form every time, so maybe it's a template that you're giving to your customers. And of course, the volume is low. So if the data's structured, but it's an image, we can use OCR technologies like Abby's Fine Reader SDK to extract data. Then we need to start thinking about template-based approach. So if we use tools like Abby's FlexiCapture today, we can define templates which are quite dynamic. So if the data changes or it appears in different places, we can use things like fuzzy matching or string searches to go and try and extract data from those applications. So widely used for things like invoice processing today where there's a low volume. And then we have integration with Abby's FlexiCapture platform, which is also using machine learning. So when it uses templating, but when it comes back and it says, right, I'm not 100% sure that I was able to extract that data, it then goes into a workflow and the user uses a validation station. And the user will say, okay, well, you got that bit right, you found the date, you found the PO number, you found the entity, but actually you didn't get the tax properly, it's actually in the wrong place. So they will continue to correct Abby, and it will continue to correct and verify. And it remembers those corrections. So every time it sees a new document, it applies those corrections and continues to improve using supervised learning. And then, of course, UiPath is then investing in other machine learning technologies to deal with variation, things like handwriting recognition. So we'll continue to research and look at tools that can start to get some kind of success with handwriting. But, of course, the thing you need to understand with machine learning is we can't guarantee 100% accuracy, so it's very important that we have this validation point, we have this touch point from a human to make sure they can verify the result. And what's also coming in 2018.4, and by the way, when I say coming in 2018.4, one of the things you need to realize about a product company is that we have a thing called a feature freeze and a code freeze. So until the code freeze, that's when the features are kind of set in stone and we communicate widely with our customers. But what is planned for 2018.4 today is to build our own validation station. So today we have validation stations that have been created by some of our partners, and some of them are quite basic and not very user-friendly or easy to use. So what we're hoping to release in 2018.4 is a validation station that is agnostic of the platform that sits underneath it. So it can be launched by an attended robot, and behind the scenes could be an Abby FlexiCapture, it could be Google, it could be IBM Data Capture, it could be any of the OCR technologies, but we in UiPath can provide that validation point for an attended robot to go ahead and to go ahead and perform that validation and correction within the UiPath solution. So today we have two types of ways of integrating machine learning. So today within UiPath Studio, as I already mentioned, you can call upon a cloud-based machine learning solution. We also integrated the likes of Google, Microsoft, IBM, and Abby within UiPath Studio today as activities that you can use out of the box. Some of them require licenses, of course, but they're available for you to use if you have those licenses. And then we want to build this AI service system. So, you know, when a customer says to us, can you come and talk to us about machine learning? The first thing we say to them is, well, can you give us examples of where you're going to use machine learning? What are your case studies? What are your use cases? Where do you want to apply machine learning? So what we want, and we're also talking to these customers, some of them have data scientists that are using tools like PMML, DL4J, TensorFlow, Caffe2 to build these models. They have data scientists who understand Python, and they're building these models to try and fix specific business scenarios. So what we want to do is to say, well, actually, you could host these as part of the UiPath solution. So when the robot's running and the robot needs to send a document for classification, or it needs to extract a clause from a contract, or it needs to get the next best action because it's a complaint that's coming from a customer, and we want to understand what the complaint's about. Those are the types of processes that we're seeing today, where customers are using machine learning, they're embedding it with UiPath. We can invoke Python today, but we'll continue to support these models and will allow you to embed them into the UiPath architecture. We've gone through chatbots, but so really the dialogue will happen between the human and the chatbot, and really what we're doing is we're converting unstructured data into something that's structured. We can then send that data to a UiPath robot, and that can go and interface with your systems. So we're seeing lots of really cool integrations that are coming with chatbots. There's also one on our UiPath Go marketplace that you can go and see and download and have a play with if you're interested in how virtual assistants are working with RPA. And then process mining. One of the things that we're doing with process mining, so we're working with Celonis today, and Celonis is very good at looking at your back-end ERP systems and mining that data to see where there is repetitive activities happening that could be automated. But what we also want to do is at UiPath, we're building a smart recorder. So the idea is a smart recorder can go and sit on users' desktops, and it can look at the types of front-end activities that they're doing across multiple systems. Then we can mine that data using tools like Celonis. So not only can we get a view of what's happening in the background in your ERP logs, we can also get a view of what's happening in the foreground and what the users are actually doing on their machines. And then that will, again, help us when we're discovering new processes that we might want to go and automate. And off the back of that, we could even produce the RPA skeleton. If we can see there's a group of activities that users are doing all the time, we could then produce UiPath workflows off the back of that, which would be a skeleton process to, of course, enable and speed up implementation time. So the final section was the ease of use and ecosystem. So today, under user enablement, we'll talk about Studio X, which is a new product that we're looking to build to help to enable your business users inside the organization. Machine learning supported computer vision, so using computer vision to help the robot identify controls on the screen. We launched earlier, a couple of months ago, our Academy 360. So we revamped Academy, and we've added lots of new courses in there around solution design, infrastructure, advanced developer training. So there's lots of new courses that are coming, and as you heard, Tom Clancy, our new Chief Learning Officer, is also using that platform to upskill our internal employees as well. The UiPath community, so investing in the community, investing in the marketplace, having a community profile for people that can link to all of the different services like the Academy, like the forum, like the marketplace, and really kind of creating this social media aspect for a UiPath user, for a UiPath developer, giving them badges to say, well done, you've downloaded 10 items, or you've contributed 5 items, or you've passed the Academy, or you've contributed to 10 different posts. Localization will continue to invest in that. Reducing complexity, so some of the features that you'll see that's just come in 2018.3 are things like the global shared library, allowing you to create automation components that can easily be reused across multiple process automations. In 18.3, we also went and refactored UiPath Studio based on Windows Workflow Foundation, which is the tool that sits behind. And that's allowed us to really extend Studio more, so we can start to add more and more features to UiPath Studio. We're no longer constrained by Windows Workflow Foundation and some of the challenges that gave us. So things like improving the debugging functionality that we have within UiPath Studio. Any developers in the room will probably be shouting for joy. Doing things like workforce analysis, so being able to see how often did the robot go down a particular path, how often was this particular type of exception happening within the tool. Having additional plugins, enabling technologies, and then integrations is the next big thing for us. So event management and flows. So one of the things we're looking to do is introduce webhooks, which means that we can use things like Node.js and Node-RED. And it's basically it's a really, really good way of joining together different services. So if you think of like IoT devices, when people are, boiling their kettle, you could potentially have a robot that could boil your kettle and make you a cup of coffee. Well, it couldn't make you a cup of coffee, but it could boil your kettle. So using event management solutions and flows like Node.js and Node-RED and webhooks to be able to seamlessly connect services together based upon events happening rather than polling technology, which is the way a lot of applications are going today. So StudioX. StudioX is going to be a very big thing for us. So we talk about this one robot for every employee. We do realize that sometimes UiPath Studio can have some complexities around development. So you need to be you need to understand a little bit of coding to do the expressions. You need to understand some of the principles around software development. However, we think there's a big market out there for like an accountant who's sat in your finance department to say, well, all I want to do is take the data from this spreadsheet and put it into SAP. So StudioX will be another version of the development studio that we have. So UiPath Studio will remain. StudioX will come, and it will be very easy for business people to interact with an Excel or Office-based product to allow them to use the power of UiPath automation, but on a simple interface like Excel, sequencing activities together using PowerPoint. So StudioX will be a way for your business users to have the power to go and automate some of the small, simple activities that they're doing. And here's some mock-ups from the early prototyping that we've been doing within UiPath. Integration with wizards and embedded code. So lots of organizations today who are using SAP, they're currently using BAPI or BAPIs. We're going to have a way of you integrating and adding those BAPI scripts into UiPath Studio. So UiPath will be able to go and execute those SAP macros that you've created. We mentioned Node.js. So we said here that we have CRM systems, ITSM systems, IoT devices, and we can use webhooks and Node-RED and Node.js to seamlessly integrate UiPath with these types of applications. And of course have an orchestrator workbench to be able to test these. And here's the type of interface that you would see in Node-RED, so you can quite easily put your services together and define the inputs and the outputs. And we will be doing some webinars in UiPath to explain a little bit more how developers in your organization will get the value out of this. Now, we're going to try something here. We're going to do a live demo of UiPath Go. So rather than me talk about it, because I've been talking quite a lot, I'm going to invite Enrique onto the stage to do a 5-minute presentation in Spanish, because unfortunately my Spanish is not very good, of UiPath Go. And then we'll carry on and do the last 2 slides before finishing. So thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Buenas tardes a todos. Soy Enrique Díaz, formo parte del equipo Pre-Sales en la región Southern Europe. Y bueno, voy a presentaros UiPath Go. UiPath Go es una plataforma que es la evolución necesaria para la democratización de software que hemos oído hoy. Tenemos la Academy, tenemos el Forum y UiPath Go es el siguiente paso. En UiPath Go podremos encontrar componentes desarrollados por otras personas de todo tipo. Para ubicaros un poco, voy a mostraros cómo es lo que es la página web. Es una página web. La URL es go.uipath.go. Si habéis hecho ya login, podéis acceder a toda la funcionalidad. Si no lo habéis hecho, deberíais registraros. La interfaz gráfica es muy simple, como podéis ver tiene un buscador, una barra de búsqueda para palabras claves que puede simplificaros mucho la operativa. Tiene una búsqueda por categorías, ahora os explicaré más en detalle. Y como podéis ver, aquí aparecen ya algunos de los componentes que tenemos dentro. Los más populares, los que están en trending, los nuevos. Permitidme que os hable un poquito de los números. Lo hemos dicho ya antes, pero voy a repetirlo. Hay más de 150 componentes ya integrados en la plataforma y tenemos a 7.000 usuarios ya dentro de la plataforma también. Esto en menos de un mes, lo cual es muy significativo. Bien, vamos a hablar de las categorías. Disponemos de 7 categorías dentro de UiPath Go. Existen las actividades, que para quien esté familiarizado con nuestro software, las actividades son las unidades mínimas, son nuestros átomos, ¿vale? Es la mínima unidad funcional que tenemos, que en combinación, puesta en combinación, acaba siendo un proceso. También hay procesos con una sola actividad, pero no es lo más habitual. Los snippets son pequeños trozos de código reutilizable que podemos emplear para dar más velocidad a alguno de los desarrollos que tengamos. Los workflows nos permitirán, en un modo más ordenado, trabajar con nuestras automatizaciones. El workflow que tenemos nosotros muy recomendable de utilizar es el RE Framework, que podréis obtener más información en la academia y básicamente sirve para conectar con el orquestador, tiene muchas características reutilizables, tiene control de errores, es bastante potente. También disponemos de los conectores. Existen conectores para aplicaciones y existen conectores para sistemas gestores de bases de datos. Los dashboards, para manejar la información que se produce a través de todos los robots, tenemos los dashboards. Tenemos dashboards, por lo que he podido ver, para Tableau, para Kibana y para algunos otros sistemas también. Como plantillas de Machine Learning, que ya tanto hemos hablado de ello, podemos reutilizar este conocimiento a través de estos conectores que tenemos aquí. Y por último tenemos soluciones N-A-N. Son productos ya prácticamente finalizados que pueden reutilizarse para hacer proyectos mucho más grandes. Eso en cuanto a las categorías. Permitidme que os enseñe cómo se realiza una búsqueda. En el siguiente paso tendríamos un filtrado por el tipo de contenidos, ¿vale?, que os acabo de comentar, por el tipo de procesos o por el tipo de proveedor. Estos son todos los proveedores que actualmente están dentro de nuestra comunidad y están dentro de UiPath Go, nuestro marketplace. Y bueno, para continuar, permitidme mostraros lo sencillo que es utilizar el marketplace. Basta con que localicemos, después de haber hecho login, el componente que necesitamos y entonces ver, efectivamente, aquí tenéis toda la información de lo que hace el dispositivo que habéis cogido y tenéis un botón de descargas. Existen dos tipos de descargas, la descarga directa y la descarga al estudio directamente. Si lo tenéis bien configurado, es tan sencillo como añadir al estudio y se nos añadirá este componente a nuestra librería. Y ya desde nuestro propio estudio nos podemos descargar y instalar el paquete en cualquiera de los proyectos que tengamos. Básicamente, esto es todo en cuanto a UiPath. Andrew, please.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
It's coming back on? Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so thank you, Enrique, for giving us a very good presentation of UiPath Go. So really, the ecosystem, so UiPath's strategy, really, as I mentioned at the start, is to build an open ecosystem of technologies that allow organizations to use best in breed and bring these together. So you can see here that there's a lot of logos, and of course everyone always shows you the logo slide, but all of these technologies that you see on here are companies that our product team are engaged with, where we're working with. We're looking at use cases that businesses have where we can implement this solution together. So you can see BPM solutions, we have intelligent OCR, analytics and dashboards, process intelligence, so doing process mining. We have NLP and digital assistance, security, and of course, applications, enterprise applications, which we are doing more out-of-the-box integrations with. So, for example, UiPath Go, we have a partner who built some Salesforce activities. So rather than having to automate Salesforce, you can use UiPath activities for doing things like creating an opportunity, creating an account, maybe setting the status of an opportunity to 1. So those types of activities are being built by our community, they're being built by our partners, and they will be available on the UiPath Go marketplace if the partner or the customer are happy to share those. So finishing off with the community, so of course some nice statistics here. You can see that we currently have 55,000 people who have been enrolled in the UiPath community. We have over 280 people who've gone through the certification process within the academy. And we have around 1,500 new diplomas that are coming every month. The forum has 15,000 registered users. We have 3,000 daily user visits. 3 hours is actually the response time. So if someone asks a question on the forum, on average it takes around 3 hours for one of our community users or someone from UiPath to go and respond to those. And we have 300 posts a day. So it shows that we have a really good community within UiPath, which is why lots of the new services that you'll see coming in the next year are around helping our community and our customers. So promoting these amazing developers. We've just launched the MVP program for UiPath. So we have UiPath Most Valuable People. And these are the guys who are active on the forum and they're helping our customers to grow. And then finally, the key highlights. So 18.3 was released, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And 18.3 has been our biggest release to date. So that it's so feature rich. There's lots of really amazing new features that we've got within there. And just to highlight a few of these, so the global shared library, which means that now you can create libraries within UiPath and you can embed these into other processes that makes reusability and supportability easier. We've made it easier to upgrade. So I don't know how many customers here have gone through an upgrade process. What we've done is we've decoupled some of the core UiPath activities from Studio, which means that when you upgrade, you can use the existing automation activities, which means that your workflows are less likely to have any issues when you're doing a regression test. We have an enhanced package manager, which if anyone's ever used tools like Visual Studio, you'll see the new package manager is a little bit more familiar. And dependency rules, which means that you can have different versions of activities for different processes. So you're in control when you want to upgrade your process to use the next version of Excel activities as an example. And of course, localization support for UiPath Studio. We have attended robot pools in Orchestrator, so we now support non-persistent attended VDIs. So if you have users that log into a Zendesk session, when they start, we can support non-persistent by having a floating robot license. Jobs can now have input and output arguments, so you can pass data to a robot when it starts, and you can receive data afterwards. And that's the groundwork for chaining robots together with different inputs and output arguments. We have host licensing now versus tenant licensing, so if you're using multiple tenants, you now have licensing at a host level and have the ability to reallocate licenses from one tenant to another rather than having to ring UiPath and say, please can you take 10 licenses from this key and put 10 licenses on that key. That's now in control, as well as utilization graphs that you can see at the host level, so you can see how often robots are utilizing those licenses to see if you need to assign them to a different tenant, as an example. We have localization support again in UiPath Studio. And then finally, UiPath Robots. So we now have embedded HTML support, which means if you have an attended robot and you want to capture some data from a human, you can have a HTML form that can pop up in a browser as part of that workflow to capture information or show information to a user. You can, we introduced the invoke code or the write code activity that allows you to write VB.NET code within UiPath. We also now have the ability to write Java code in there if that's something that you prefer, and you can import the Java libraries into UiPath. To kind of make attended robots better, we also now have the ability to disable the human's keyboard and mouse. So for example, if it's an attended robot and the attended robot needs to do some OCR, or it needs to do a computer vision activity which a human could potentially interrupt, we have the ability to disable the keyboard and mouse of the human for a very small period of time so the robot isn't interrupted when it's trying to do that type of activity. There's more activities for Office and Excel. Of course, lots of customers have built their own, but we've now integrated a number of those into the product. And then things like additional encryption. So we have, like I said, we're going to support work queue encryption and a localization support, of course, for the robots, so they can deal with different languages for Russian, French, and Japanese at the moment. But we will be supporting more languages going forward. So that was a lot of content to cover, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit over. I'll buy you all a drink. And thank you very much for listening. And yeah, I'll see you all soon. Thank you.